I've been using the iPhone X for roughly about 2 months, give or take a couple weeks. And the reason why I've been putting off this review is because I wanted to give Apple time to squash some of the bugs and fix some of the glitches that really interfered with the iPhone X experience. And with that being said, well, this is a little bit over 60 days with the iPhone X and my full review. In terms of its design, the iPhone X is definitely an attractive looking phone. The glass back coupled with the stainless steel sides feels amazing in the hand if you're brave enough to use it completely naked. Even the notch and the slightly rotated camera design on the back seem to blend into the phone pretty well. So yeah, the iPhone X is definitely a looker, but when it comes to durability, it's an entire different story. If you've been using the iPhone X without a screen protector, I can guarantee you have micro scratches. And if you don't believe me, you can pause the video and check for yourself. Not only does the display scratch easy, but the stainless steel sides scratch easy too. Luckily, if you have the white model with the silver stainless, you can polish the scratches out. If you have the space black model, well, you're kinda screwed. My advice is simple, either pick up a case like the Apple silicone or leather case, or you can put a skin on your phone like I did, such as the Colorwear Cloak, which is a new skin from Colorwear, and I'll leave both links down in the description below. A big part of the iPhone X's greatness is the display. The iPhone X has been praised to have the best display on a mobile device by several different websites. It's remarkably the most color accurate panel available and has a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio. Of course, this is due to the fact that Apple is using one of the best OLED panels from Samsung for a mobile device, plus they're adding their own optimizations on top of that, that way they can fine-tune the display to get it the way it is. I have to say, the iPhone X display is pretty incredible when you think about outdoor visibility, battery life, color rendering, and the fact that it supports HDR10 and Dolby Vision HDR. Apple has also fixed True Tone displays since my previous video, and it's running a lot better than what it was. But at the end of the day, is this my favorite display on any phone? No. That still goes to the Galaxy Note 8, mostly because of its size, but also the way that Samsung has optimized the panel for more vibrant colors. I just personally like that a little bit better. Even though I'm saying a lot of nice things about the iPhone X's display, I'm still really disappointed with it, and it definitely comes with a lot of issues. I was one of the people that suffered from the green line problem that would pop up randomly and pretty much ruin your display. However, in Apple's defense, I was able to get it replaced for free, but nonetheless, it shouldn't happen for a phone that is this expensive. That's just my personal opinion. But other than that one major issue, I really haven't had any problems with the display on the iPhone X. Viewing angles are great, color shifting is present, but it's not bad at all. The brightness is good, and I haven't noticed any screen burn-in issues, which is great for an OLED display. One thing you may notice is I really haven't mentioned anything about the notch. The world famous notch on the iPhone X is, or may be, not as distracting as you may think. You definitely get used to it over time. Developers have done an excellent job at updating their apps to take advantage of the large screen while still making room for the giant beaver tooth at the top. However, there are still several apps that don't offer support, and this is where the iPhone X's biggest display issue occurs. See, here's the thing, if the apps don't fully support the iPhone X's display, it actually shrinks that window down to a 4.7-inch size, so you're pretty much getting a 4.7-inch iPhone screen in specific apps. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's discuss why the notch is present, and of course that's Face ID. Face ID is Apple's future of device unlocking and locking. Basically, it's advanced facial scanning that, when combined with Apple's hardware and software algorithms, securely locks your phone in the same way that Touch ID does. In fact, any app that currently supports Touch ID will automatically and seamlessly support Face ID. It's pretty intuitive and pretty nice, in theory. There are certain scenarios where Face ID fails me every time, such as laying in bed and trying to unlock my phone. Once you figure out how you can and can't use Face ID, you begin to adapt. However, I'm not justifying Apple's actions by any means. I think that having to adapt is a lame excuse and something that you shouldn't have to do for a $1,000 phone. I would much rather have the ability to use Touch ID and Face ID on the same phone, just like Samsung does and OnePlus. Looking at the internal hardware and specs, the iPhone X is nearly identical to the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. It's packing the A11 Bionic chip and 3 GB of RAM, which is more than enough to power anything you throw at this phone. AR apps run perfectly, games are super smooth, multitasking is as good as it's gonna get on iOS 11, and camera processing in the HEVC codec to H.264 conversion is stupid fast. My iPhone X does not heat up hardly at all during use. The only time it really gets significantly hot on the backside is during fast charging using my MacBook Pro brick. Speaking of that, the iPhone X features a 2,716 mAh battery, and it's definitely capable of lasting a full day with ease. Oh yeah, other than supporting fast charging, the iPhone X, iPhone 8, and iPhone 8 Plus now support 7.5 watt wireless charging. That was pushed out with a recent update, which is really awesome. In Apple's eyes, that is fast wireless charging, and it is faster, but I wouldn't say it's fast. iOS is still pretty stale, however the difference is that with iOS 11, it's stale and unstable on the iPhone X. Now most of these bugs and glitches have to do with the display size, including like the aspect ratio or pretty much just the cutout of the notch, but I did experience other random things such as random shutdowns, lockups, or even device rotation issues that were pretty sporadic but still present. It's also important to note that the iPhone X relies strictly on touch input and gesture-based operation versus the physical home button found on previous iPhones. As ridiculous as this sounds, over a period of time you get used to it just like you do with Face ID and the notch, and you become really fast at it. In fact, the gestures just become natural and you can operate this phone just as fast, if not faster, than previous generation iPhones. And I know that sounds like you're compensating, because you are, but trust me, the gestures are not that bad, all except for one. Closing background apps is definitely not as fast as it used to be. The extra press and hold operation definitely slows you down, but again, you do get used to it. Plus, closing background apps is not something you truly have to do on iOS, which is one of the key benefits to using an iPhone. I've also gotten used to the different power button operations and combinations. However, the SOS feature that is built onto the Apple Watch and the iPhone X is a problem for me. My phone and watch have called emergency services several times by accident when placed in a backpack or a bag, period. Shifting things over to the cameras on the iPhone X and first focusing on the hardware, then we'll dive into the software side of things. The iPhone X is the only iPhone to feature stabilization in both the standard and telephoto lenses. Plus, the telephoto lens lets in a little bit more light, considering it has an f-stop of f2.4 now. The difference between the iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone X is very slight in terms of low light capabilities, and this should not be a deciding factor between these two phones. On the front side, it features an f2.2 lens with a new true depth sensor to allow for Face ID and front-facing portrait mode. However, this is not the case with an emoji. More on that later. The iPhone X features great image quality for the front and rear cameras, so it's about what you would expect from Apple. However, the microphone pickup is not very good for video, but it makes up for it because in video you get 60 frames per second 4K and you get up to 240 frames per second in 1080p, which is awesome. So going back to Animoji actually doesn't use the true depth sensor on the front of the phone. Instead, it just uses the front-facing camera. So theoretically, this could be ported over to older generation iPhones. However, you and I both know that's never gonna happen. So to wrap everything up and bring it on home, the iPhone X is a great phone, and in just over 2 months, I have enjoyed my time with it mostly. The headaches for me though are nuisances and borderline drive me crazy. Are they workable? Sure. Can I still use my iPhone like an iPhone? Sure. Is it as easy as other iPhones? In time, it will be, but you shouldn't buy one. If you're in the market for an iPhone, or you're upgrading from the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus, get an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus. Specifically the 8 Plus because I feel that's a better iPhone, or actually the best iPhone currently on the market. You're getting the entire iPhone X experience minus Animojis, but in the meantime, you can just use Snapchat because that seems to be the closest equivalent. You also don't get portrait lighting, which works in conjunction with portrait mode, and it allows you to change the lighting scenario of your photo and add some really cool studio lighting effects that will really enhance your image. There are a few other things you don't get, like stabilization on the telephoto lens or the f2.4 aperture versus 2.8, but in my eyes, that does not equate to a $200 price difference, and you're getting a great phone still. Plus, out of all those things that I said you don't get, you also don't get all the headaches and nuisances that are coming with the iPhone X as of, current, or at the time of this video. I mean, don't get me wrong, the iPhone 10 is a great phone, but it's hard to recommend that phone over other phones, including Apple's own iPhone 8 Plus. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you are subscribed, make sure you turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new content drops. If you have any questions, get at me with a comment below or hit me up on social, and of course, I'll talk to you in the next one.